Did you have to do basically written and oral tests or?
So this was a multi-layered assignment where it was. Welcome back to the podcast, by the way. I'm now
are you recording already?
Yep, I hit record as soon as you jump in the call, and it basically ends because when I stop recording, you leave the call like straight away. It's quite funny and it's quite convenient. But yeah, welcome back to the podcast. I'm just explaining to Jan. I'm now. I've submitted my last assignment for uni, and if all things turn out well, I should. I'd be a graduate soon. Oh, you're frozen there. Hello. Do I still have you? Yep, I do. Excellent.
Yeah. You were frozen. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Yeah.
But I couldn't hear you.
Oh, can you hear me? Okay. I'll go from the top.
I can hear you now, Vic.
Okay, no I'll go from the top. I submitted my last assignment and I am just waiting for the grade. And it was a really interesting class. It was called media production, but it had nothing to do with media production. It was actually a journalism class. And I had to do a multimedia feature story. And I did mine on how AI is affecting creatives. And the final part of the assignment and the big chunk was a video package where I interviewed someone I know who is a designer and how AI affects him. And I also interviewed someone who can very much articulate how the technology works and talked about it there. So I had those two different angles. And hopefully it all pans out well. I don't know when I'll get the grade, but I've got notifications on my phone. And it's a strange relief getting that all off because my university journey has been crazy. Lots of highs, lots of lows, but I'm relieved it's over, but I'm now living in a perpetual state of anxiety.
But that's cool because the thing is, enjoy the time now because you're basically stuck in the middle of two things, the old university and the new life, so to speak. You did do an BA or is it an MBA?
A bachelor. I think I'm not going to end up with a title or anything like that, but I think it is just a standard MBA. Now, Jan and I were also planning on drinking, but it's just going to be me, and I'm going to try a blood orange hazy pale ale from Moondog.
Oh, wow. And you still have cans in Australia, yeah?
It's ridiculous.
Do you think this is really 2023 like?
You talk about cans like it's from the 80s, but cans have always been something in Australian life. We only recently introduced an exchange thing in Victoria, my state, where you can hand in your cans and get 10 cents back or something like that. But for those who don't know, Berlin doesn't have any cans. The only thing that are canned are imported mixed drinks like Jack Daniels and Coke and things of that nature. But otherwise, beer, soft drink, it's all in glass. You get the occasion. Do you get plastic bottles or is it all glass?
It's mainly glass, but plastic you can at least hand in and get a refund for the plastic.
That's a weird flavor. It's okay. I'll finish it, but it's weird.
It looks like urine to me, I have to say.
It does. But blood orange is a very mature flavor. I remember hating it when I was a kid, and now I'm a bit older and really
but getting back to the can, this was basically my story arc to come to our topic, this episode called Mixtape and tapes in general.
Okay.
Because for the audience who are maybe not so much familiar with mixtapes or audio tapes, do you know how they look?
I have an idea. The closest thing I have to it is, he's got one. Excellent. The closest thing that I have to knowing about mixtapes and what they are and their function is Guardians of the Galaxy. Have you seen that?
Sorry?
The film Guardians of the Galaxy?
No, I haven't seen it.
So the lead character gets abducted from Earth in the 80s as he's a kid, and the only thing he had on him is a Walkman, his mixtape, and his headphones. And the film's soundtrack are songs from that era. and it's really cool because kids get to enjoy a superhero film, but parents get to enjoy the soundtrack of all these films from back then.
Nice.
And it's a really nice touch and a really cool thing that they did in that film to have.
Let me dive back because I have to find what I'm not sure if I still have them here. Yeah. No, I think they are.
They've been obsolete for like, I don't know, 20 years or something like that. Like, I don't.
Fuck no, I think they are in the basement. My tapes. Well, basically, it started out when back in the days in the 80s, when we were able to buy a technical thing called radio, including a cassette player.
Yep.
And then it started that you were able to record the radio station or the radio shows. And sometimes in Germany we had this, it started out public, run by the government. So you had once an hour for a couple of minutes commercials.
Yep.
But then that means that you had them once in an hour. And so the rest of the 50 or 55 minutes, it was either talking or playing music, mostly playing music. And that's why you were able to listen to 3 or 4 songs in a row.
Right.
Without anybody talking. And if you had and then radio was, put it this way, radio was the most important filter for a society to listen to good or bad music, because the radio person is thinking, okay, this is cool, this is not cool, this is what I will play. And then, they kind of educate the people with good music. And that's why they decided to do more, is it rock, pop, those different genres, for an hour or two. And that's why you were able to record them.
Yeah, I was going to ask, when you say that every hour you could get something, could you guarantee that Bruce Springsteen was going to play on the 35th minute of every hour?
No.
Or
No.
Okay, yeah.
No, this was not able. You didn't even know what's coming up. I'm talking about really the time when inside the radio show someone was putting on the vinyl on a vinyl player, and they played, and then the song was over and they took it away and put it back into the sleeve.
Isn't that tremendously talented back then to be able to do the vinyls and mixing all of that? My goodness.
Yeah, and the sound and everything, it was different, and this you were able to record that. Yep. And then you were able to play that afterwards, the next day. What happened is the older you got, the longer you stayed awake to listen to more crazy music, because the crazy music was playing after 11 p.m., 12 p.m.
Yep.
But that means that you were sitting like you with your headphones on, with inside the radio, and the cassette was playing, and then usually people or kids were falling asleep. So you don't know what you recorded, basically, if you're falling asleep. So the next day was always very exciting. You had to listen to it, and you were not able to, you could fast forward and rewind, but then you couldn't hear anything really, You didn't have different speeds. Nowadays you have different speeds to fast forward, for example. So at least you can listen a little bit to what's going on, And yeah.
Did you ever have the problem where the song was 5 minutes long and you only had 4 minutes of tape? And you were like, shit.
Exactly. This happens always, And the smart ones, because they knew how long the tape was running, because there were the numbers, calculating down. And then they stopped earlier, and then they just turn it around, because a cassette has A and B sides.
Yes, I am familiar with that.
And so, and then you had double cassettes player, so we were able to copy basically a cassette, but you had to wait. You had, if you had a 60-minute tape, you had to play it for 60 minutes in order to record it. You know,
Oh my
it was
God.
not.
Okay. I didn't realize that was, couldn't you wind it to a particular, the end of your current tape and then hit record from there? Or did you have to play it, pause, or not pause necessarily? Then the song that you want to listen to comes on the radio, then you record it.
Yeah.
Jesus, that's painful.
But you were able, if you have this on your on side B, the song you wanted to listen to, it's on side B. You can always, of course, fast forward to it, and then you just record that
Oh,
song.
I see. Yep.
You know, that's if it's already on the cassette. You know, that was possible. You know, but the thing is that what I want to put another thing is that you were holding music in your hand, like the vinyl.
Yeah.
And nowadays, you don't really hold the music anymore. This is gone.
Okay. That's an interesting thing to mention. I guess I wanted to ask quickly before we dive into this. Was there, because it's on tape and sometimes you can fuck it up or be slightly early or slightly late, or there's a slight glitch in the transmission or something like that, was there ever charm in having slight issues in the recording of the songs on your tape? Or you just wanted to get the best quality possible?
Put it this way, back then, quality issues were not the point, because you bought, there were different qualities within the cassettes, of course, chroma key or something like that, what they were called.
Chroma
And
key,
then
nice.
and then they were, some were metal, you know, and not plastic.
Mm-hmm.
So they were heavier and they were better inside the cassette player or recorder. But that was the only issue of quality. Then, of course, the quality issue was throughout your radio station, but this was either clear or like that.
I see. That makes sense.
And it was more about having the song you wanted, you know, or it's getting something new, because you were not able to predict what's going on, you know, what song you can hear or listen to. So you basically had to go with what's out then. And then you were able to play this, of course, at home, maybe inside the car of your parents, if they were cool and had a cassette player, and your Walkman.
Yep, or at parties. And was it a social thing where it's like, I can only use Australian examples because I can only think of Australian examples, but let's say you've got, hey, I've got the new Jimmy Barnes song, it's called Working Class Man. I picked it up. Like, if you got it, people knew songs were coming out or something like that, or Midnight Oil, and you got it, you know, your song recorded on your tape within the first 2-3 days. Did you get social credit for having songs early on your tape or earlier on your tape?
No, for me it wasn't like that, because there was not a kind of competition or anything like that to who has the latest or newest songs or something like that. It was more the thing, what are you listening to, you know? And this was more, yeah, to have them, you know. It was not that we played the song to friends or anything like that, you know. When we had a mobile cassette player, you know, everybody put the music on, and then someone was like, okay, that's enough, and then, or the tape was over, and then someone else put a tape in it. But we didn't go on a Friday night out having 5 cassette tapes in the pocket and play it. This was not like that.
Gotcha.
You know?
Okay.
You know, and the thing is that one other thing is that inside the cassettes, the covers, they always had a piece of paper,
And you could write on it, yeah.
with lines, and so you had always the name and of the band or the artist, and then the title, or maybe just the title, and this was written down, or some were made drawings and stuff like that. So those little things became an art piece, you know, and that's why you put so much emphasis in it by drawing or by writing stuff down. It was this thing to keep this, to have this, it's my own, and then, you know, it didn't really matter if the songs were cool or the latest shit or from some other, you know. It was just basically like this, you know.
It's interesting that you mention that, because my parents have talked about this because we'll kind of touch on this later as we get onto the music in your hand. They were baffled when iPods came out and be bewildered and amazed with Spotify and the fact that an album can come out and 1 second later I can listen to it on Spotify and have the whole thing and get the best quality audio version of it. But back in the day when it came to mixtapes at least in Australia, and I've heard about this in USA too, and it may be the case in Germany, did you ever make a mixtape to woo someone you liked? Because my dad made them to impress my mum.
Yeah.
And the section where you could draw, you could write like a little love note if you wanted to, or something like that.
Yeah, many did so. I never had to do this because the girls were just flying into me.
Oh, classic
to be honest.
Jan making a joke about that. Like, seriously,
Of
I knew I was
course.
setting you up for that. Like, I should know better
Exactly,
than to
I
say
pay you,
stupid
I
shit
pay
like
you.
that.
And no, for me it was not like it was. Yeah, I mean, of course, we just said, "Here, I made this tape for you." Of course, we did that to other girls.
I reckon if I
and
made a mixtape for someone, not a mixtape, a playlist on Spotify for someone, I'm like, they'd be like, okay, like
yeah,
there's
I
something
mean,
romantic about giving the tape and having it there. There's like, it's a
yeah,
physical thing.
it's sweaty. It's in your hand. You know that it comes from your pocket, from the boy's pocket into the girl's pocket. And this is you getting close to the point where you want to hit.
It's intimate.
at
It's
the
nice.
end.
I like how you put that.
And the other thing is that it was kind of a trophy, too, to get this thing, And nowadays you send by a Dropbox or by AirDrop the Spotify list. Here it's for you, the 10 most important love songs, and it's different to have the cassette, and then don't underestimate the work it took in order to create this, because you had to wait to record, you had to maybe to record one song or two from another tape to the new mixtape, and that's why I think the girls or the boys liked it if they got this mixtape, because there was work in there, and
Oh,
technology and stuff like that,
yeah.
and
It's cool. If I was around during that time, I bet you that I would have been super into mixtapes and getting it all going and collecting vinyls as well. We've talked about this a lot privately, but Jan and I love collecting things and rare artifacts and having tangible things of stuff that we like. I saw a Tintin collection of a bunch of graphic novels, and I sent it to Jan, and he goes, "Don't buy it from there. Buy it from these websites because they're stamped and legit and this and that." And we always go back and forth. But there's something really collectible and stuff like that. And I'm sure as well you probably had, I don't know, relatives or friends who would be like, "Hey, I've got these old mixtapes. I don't really like listening to them anymore. Would you like them?" Was that just super special and like really exciting?
this was exciting because just to see how the music, what they have and how they liked, and then you had more. And plus, if they didn't kill because you can save a tape, they had those plastic little things on top. And
Yep.
if you kill them, you couldn't record them. You cannot record them because sometimes some cassette players had the play button and, of course, the rec button next to each other. So if you want to record, and sometimes even if you were 10 and you didn't drink or smoke anything, you were not able to hit the play button, but you recorded it. And then you override it, of course, So, but if you still had the security on it, you can always override the music. So every mixtape you got, if you didn't like it, you just record your music over. Perfect.
Right. Okay.
And the cover you made by yourself, and then you had a brand new, basically, an empty cassette to record again. Or what's happened later on, a friend of mine, he still is doing this, and I didn't get it because it stopped when I sold my last car. I had a really old Golf. You call it Rabbit, I think.
No, golf.
And-
Yeah, it's called golf.
Okay, Golf. And it was from 1999. And I had to sell it 2 years ago because it was completely fucked up. And but it has a cassette player inside. So a friend of mine, I think he has, I don't know, 3,000 vinyls, and he's collecting. It's crazy, and he always is doing this since the 90s. You know, when he made his music, he plays his music on vinyl, and he's recording it on a tape, and then he's giving it to friends, and it's a really nice gift because you have it.
I love how he's clearly been thinking the whole time, where's my tape? Where's my tape? And he's just found one and he's looking around the room. Here we go. This is exciting. Oh, yeah.
This is a tape. It's that thin, like my finger.
Yep.
Okay, I have fat fingers.
Okay, that looks very new. Or is the casing just...
Well, this is the case, this is the cassette itself.
Okay.
Here's the music on.
Yep.
And this is side A, where it's written, and side B. It was made 9 years ago. The tape is older. It's 100 minutes.
yeah.
2014, it's 100 minutes. He didn't write anything. These are the insides, and you know, this is how you buy it. And when you write something down, you just turn the inside outside, you know.
Okay.
And then it is like this.
And then it fits like that.
And it fits like that. And you have A and B side on this one. Some don't have this, it's just one.
Wow.
And okay.
That's beautiful. There is something really sweet about it. I really like that culture. Apparently, in Cuba, a lot of this is still the case, but it's transformed into USBs because there's a lot of cool, snappy, easy peasy. Apparently in Cuba, it's not mixtapes anymore; it's USBs. But apparently, people they share music via USBs and things like that. But I do agree with you that there is something really sweet about. It has something physical about music is a really sweet component of it all, and we have lost that. But
definitely,
do you think the trade-off of accessibility is equal, or do you think it will never be the same? Do you know what I'm saying?
No.
Okay, so the fact that you have to spend time to establish a mixtape, for you to fill out, what's that, 90 minutes, 30 songs, let's say. For me to make a 30-song playlist, that could take me an hour or maybe 30 minutes even if I'm making a smaller playlist from a bigger one. That wouldn't take me very long and I can enjoy that quickly and really get involved. Do you not think that convenience is really good and really cool, or do you sort of think you're a bit boomer mindset and thinking back in my day?
Well, yeah, I know what you mean. Of course, there is the convenience to do this. You know, it's nice. But going into convenience means losing of edginess. Because this is edgy, because recording here doesn't mean it is so easy, you know, because you can hit it too early or too late, you know, then you have too long pause between the songs. This is what you are just doing. This is the software doing basically nowadays for
Gotcha.
you. I find it, put it this way, convenience versus how can I say this?
Edginess.
I would. Sorry.
You said edginess earlier. But
yeah, edginess, and but the thing is that it's more rewardable. Put it this way: to record a 90-minute, 45 times 45 mixtape, including writing with your hand um, on the cover, then doing the click in, at Spotify, and then writing it and burning or copying with 10 seconds onto onto a stick.
Yeah.
I think it is more rewarding and more edgy than the convenience.
I guess my perspective in growing up and how music's changed, because even though I'm the young one in our dynamic, I still remember growing up, my parents having lots of CDs, and we had a CD stereo player type thing, some type of big Sony device, which was, there was the unit in the middle that was about twice as big as my head, and then there were speakers on both sides with subwoofers and the little ones on both sides. And so to listen to music, they were putting on CDs. And if they were having a dinner party, it's been like, are we putting on Crowded House? Are we putting on Midnight Oil? I don't think if my parents were having a dinner party, they were putting on Midnight Oil, but don't worry. It was very interesting. And then I remember getting an iPod when I was younger, and I had to be careful with the iPod because this was $2.20 or maybe $1.20 to $2.20 for a single, up to $35 for an album, and that was how I would get music and add it. Or because it was iTunes, if we had our like the shared library, and I could make a playlist based on that. And so that was my limit to having, and that was my accessibility and how music was limited and stuff like that. And an iPod, as I learnt later on as I got older, actually became, because not everyone had a cloud service, and so their iPod was just whatever music was on it was on it. And so, people had multiple iPods for different things. And I don't know how expensive they were, the little ones, but they can't have been too, aggressively priced for people to have multiple. But that was how it started. And then I remember in high school, people started using Spotify, and then and SoundCloud as well. And then people were using that. And then my dad stumbled across a Spotify deal where it was something like, because there's Spotify and then there's Spotify Premium, and Spotify Premium had two options: $15 a month, and you can have no ads in between songs, unlimited playlists, other things, this, that, whatever. And then you could spend $25 or something like that for the family bundle, and you would get 4 mini accounts. And at the time, there was 13 billion audio files on Spotify. So Dad's like, perfect, we're doing that. We don't need anything ever again. This has everything from everyone. And then as I've gotten older, I sort of realized that even though Spotify is massively convenient, artists also aren't getting any revenue from Spotify. They were not getting too much to begin with from iTunes, but you could actually, there was a way to break down how $2.20 actually ends up with money in the artist's pocket. But yeah, that's basically my musical journey. But I've always liked music as well. I've found a real connection to it because with having a love for storytelling, a song is at any point a whole story, or at its worst, a moment in a story. And I think the fact that you can feel these emotions and have a connection to it, and it can also speak to you about your story and what's going on. Like Kid Cudi talking about anxiety and being stressed out. It's like the relatability to that is really amazing. And that's translated to live music. There were these guys who did a cover of, they were the first openers, and they did a cover of The Scientist by Coldplay. And it's typically a sad, mopey song, and the music video was a car crash in reverse. And the main line at the end of the chorus is, and let's go back to the start. And so it's sort of like, I guess, fitting. But it was sort of a grungy rock cover, and the lead singer was a baritone. But the lead guitar player and the backup vocalist was a tenor, and so his harmony was a higher one. And with their grungy style, they got this really sad song. And you think about the music video, and they're actually turning it into something a bit more passionate. And so the sadness with that song kind of had sadness and anger connected to it. And so that's what I really like about the how music can be storytelling and have different emotions. And that's, I guess, and with a mixtape, you could have a collection of emotions like that. And it was physical and it was tangible and there was a culture around it.
Yeah. And it's so funny that when you talked, I didn't expect that we had so many new points within this topic. For example, there are so many ideas coming in my memories. My dad, he was vinyl. He was not collecting vinyl. He was buying classic music on vinyl.
Yep.
And before he started this, and he was not going crazy. He didn't buy like a record every month. It was like buying a record or two maybe in a year, stuff like that, you know. But then the audio cassettes came out, so I had to make for him copies of the music he had on vinyl.
I see.
So we were able to listen to the same music while driving in the car. You know, he skipped this whole digital thing. He didn't want to do this until there was so much music on it, and then he bought the CD player too. You know, and he always kept turning the CD because he thought there is a side B too. But you know, it took him a while to understand that there is no side B on a CD.
Yeah,
and,
on vinyl there is, isn't there?
On vinyl there is, yes. But it's for my dad, it's like the vinyl is big and black, and the CD is small and silver. But it's basically the same, you know.
Yeah.
It's just a little smaller. Anyway, I had to do this for him anyways because he didn't want to do this whole technology stuff, you know. And but now going back to listening the same music on different formats the whole time makes you much better in listening to the music. You know what I mean? If you have the whole catalog, you don't go on rewind the whole song again, unless, you know, maybe you have this repeat. But the huge archive gives you always the chance to listen to something else. And if you are limited in your archive, you have to listen much closer, and suddenly you discover maybe different instruments, or you get the emphasis on playing each song differently, you know, to understand this as a completely nobody, you know, what the musician is doing. So the idea is, you know, does it help me to listen to the same music more and more, makes me that better? Or is this to listen to the whole music in the world, which is we are not able to listen to the whole music in one lifetime, you know, it's not possible.
Yeah, never possible.
Exactly, you know. So this could be something in, you know, what's missing nowadays.
Yeah, I think though, because my dad as well has asked me many times, what's the point of an album? And because with Spotify and all this other stuff that's available, because iTunes and Apple Music, you can still buy singles. I don't know who does. That's a terrible way to listen to music. But there's now Apple Music, which is just like Spotify paid service, and then you can just add songs to your playlist, whatever you want to do. But then, what's the point of having an album when anyone can release music at any time, and then anyone can listen to it at any time and make a playlist? I don't actually know the full answer to that question, but I still really enjoy the album experience. And I've played it the other podcast, the opening song to the Daft Punk Random Access Memories album. That would be one of my favorite albums of all time. And it turned 10 recently, and they did a 10-year anniversary version of it, which had like 30 to 40 minutes of extra bonus sounds and music and outtakes and stuff like that from it. But it's just got me, and I hate how it's only that much because it just makes me think Daft Punk are so elusive in how they make music. Imagine all of the recordings and shit that they got up to in the studio and what, like the fact that we got this, what wasn't done and completed. But in any case, I think people still like the album experience and the music case and whatnot. And also, vinyls, going back to them, there's a hipster culture of collecting vinyls. It still happens and people still do it. And maybe it's an institutional thing, is that's the best way to release an album and it's a deal to make certain songs. I don't know too much.
I don't know. I think it's something what we learned with vinyls. They were the first. For a human, for the human person, anybody, you know, you have collectibles or non-collectible people. It was the first way to collect and to listen to the same song twice or even more. And that's why it stays like that, you know. And the quality since then got less. On every single digital shit, it got less than on this Schallplatten shit, you know, shellac stuff. Shellac, first vinyl is shellac. This is really something where you play it 100 years later on, it's the same quality, you know. That's why people have it in their hands, and the covers of the vinyls are art pieces sometimes, you know. And I think that's the very important stuff for us humans, you know, to keep this, you know, and to have it, you know. And that's why vinyl always stays as a collectible thing, you know, always. I'm pretty sure. You know? Yeah. And
album art can be so creative. I love how, because it's only a small square, it's a limitation on creatives. And the best thing that you can do for creative people is put limits on them. And so what they end up creating can be fucking wild.
Yeah. And the thing is with as an album, you know, or long player, LP, you know, it's basically you have to listen to a story. You know, some are good and some are bad, but they are always something what the artist thinks and what the management wants. And there are always artists who have 50 songs, and they an average album contains like 13 to 15. You know, and when you come into the general pop music where you hear instruments plus lyrics, then, you know, some artists have this song after song after song, and this is more a collection of their actual work, what they want. Then, you know, hip-hop was the same a little bit, but between the songs they made, you know, little intros, outros, skills, whatever it's called, and it became more a story. You know, the techno, the digital or computer music was able to create this from a very first second to the last second. You know, for example, Kruder and Dorfmeister, two Austrian DJs, I think, they created becoming their own artists, making music and always developing this. And then you listen really those 60, 70 minutes of the whole album. And you can of course jump in at the middle and listen only to one song, but maybe, you know, you are missing something, at least when you do this at the very first beginning, you know. So those album things is always a story arc, and that's why good mixtapes for DJs, if they take 10 artists and they mix them, and then they become a whole story, what you listen. And, you know, that's what the people, what humans want.
Can I tell you, it's interesting that you mentioned DJs and mixtapes, because I've done my fair share of clubbing, and I wouldn't say I enjoy it very much, but the one thing that is always a signal for me to leave the club is when the DJ ends and it changes to a new DJ, and when the new DJ plays the same Beyonce track, the same thing, I know that's the moment to leave, because I'm just like, moment's over. And I also, because I like live music so much, I got in trouble in Berlin, actually. I was at a boiler room event, and I forget which club it was at, but the venue is normally a no phone place. You're not allowed to film, record, and they put tape over it. But boiler room, do you know what that is?
No.
Boiler room, I think Apple own it, actually, now that I mention it. It's a live streamed DJ thing. And so they do it at clubs and they pan out and you see all these people dancing and stuff like that. But it's at the club and you can see the cameras and whatnot. So you can both experience it there or watch it live on YouTube or Twitch or wherever it is. It's pretty cool and it was quite exciting. And I was there enjoying the ambience. And as a lot of people know, Berlin clubbing is different. I'll only club in Berlin. I'm not going to go out clubbing in Melbourne. But I had my phone out and I was filming just, around Pan, just going around like that. And someone behind me tapped me on the shoulders and was like, don't do that. And I'm like, sorry? He goes, don't record in here. It's douchey. And I'm like, oh, I'm sorry. Because he was just a random and he goes, because there's so many clubs here in Berlin that are no phone and exclusive like that, it's a good idea to keep up that exclusivity when you go clubbing. Yeah. And it made me think, well, that's very interesting and that's a great point. I didn't delete the footage. But it then made me realize it's like they set this all up to have an experience. And if you're just going to stand there the whole time like that, filming something, how often are you actually watching it back? It's like, I went to the 1975 concert and I have a friend called Caroline and they have a song called Oh Caroline. So I recorded the first 2 lines of the chorus and sent it to Caroline. And that was it. That's the only thing I ever recorded, but I was trying to enjoy the moment. But otherwise, the whole time people are like, and stuff like that. It's you zombies are just sitting there, not enjoying the experience. There's 8 people on stage coming together to produce this music for you, and you like it, and you listen to it, and you cry, and he talks about a breakup, and you think about the guy that you miss, or this or that, or him doing drugs in a car, and all that sort of shit. It's like, just enjoy the moment, put your phones down.
Exactly. And you don't enjoy the moment when you keep up your phone and think about, is it all in frame? Is it real life or is it slow motion or stuff like that? Is it too dark or stuff like that? Do I see my finger? Blah, 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 I think the same, and I think there's a big lack of experience the moment as humans, with all the technology. And I think it's much easier. And I always compare this to the whale watching people, when they go on a boat and they are out in the sea and they wait for a whale to jump, and then, they have this in slow motion and they have perfectly hear this. They see all this perfect fish flying over the fucking boat, never happened before in human life. And the only people who smell the fucking fish are the people on the boat.
Yeah.
And, this is what you're missing when you go back home and you show it to your kids. Here, look what I have. They, the smell. This is the touch. Maybe you are able to touch the fucking fish,
But seeing the dolphin jump out of the water, you haven't talked about the fact that you were on tour and you met this guy from America who works for Ford. And he told me this very interesting thing about the interior design. That's part of the experience as well. So you remember that too. The 1975 concert, a girl behind me at one point said, I would let the whole band run a train on me. Do you know what that means?
No.
It means that she would be in a what would be a 9-some and have sex with all of them at once.
Okay.
That's pretty intense, isn't it?
That's very intense, okay.
But I don't experience that if I'm holding my camera up or anything like that. I don't get to tell that funny story to a podcast with people listening to it. I will say, though, about missing the experience, I'll touch on this in a moment, but I've worked with a couple musicians and DJs and filmed them live. And I don't have a problem with it. It's a job. It's getting paid or whatever it is. And it's also, every time I do a video edit, it's a new way to test out and try new things. But I do sometimes feel like I'm missing out in the moment, but the mindset of, I'm working, so I've got to really focus up and do it. And it's a strange balance. Eventually I would like to be hands off the camera and telling someone what to do with a camera, that as a producer or a director. But I've always found that because I enjoy the live experience so much that when I'm filming with my gimbal, or do you remember this little one that I used to carry around a lot?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yes.
When I'm just there filming with that one, I lose touch with what's actually going on there.
Absolutely. And one little tip I can give you and the audience is because I came from a world where we didn't have the digital one, where we had the analog and film. And even for photography, it was you were waiting for the right moments, you were waiting for the sun to fall behind the rooftop in the very fast little house over there in the far background. Just a little notch over the light has to come, and you had to wait for this, and and then the perfect moment was a click. That's it.
Yeah.
And maybe you were unsure, you did click again. Maybe you did a little bit with your focus point, whatever, you did click again, but that's it. You didn't have more time to do the actual thing. You had time to prepare for the moment, and then you shot the moment, and then you put it on film, the time.
I've only taken 2 good photographs in my life, and neither of them were planned. One was, and they were both on a DSLR, so they're actually good quality shit. One was, I was in Canada and we're near a hot spring, and it was just like a lake, and it looked like something out of Lord of the Rings, and I just took a photo, one shot, easy peasy. The next time in Melbourne, there's a big cafe culture here, and there was one cafe in the city it was an orange moped type thing, and on the back it had a wooden box with lots of green flowers or herbs or something like that in it, and I just took a photo of that. And the Melbourne streets are very grey and dark, and so we have this really beautiful collection of colours with a motorbike, technical. You kind of get where I'm going at, and it was really sweet. And it actually won a contest in my high school. Ooh. That photo of that motorbike, and so, but that wasn't something I planned for. But it's interesting that you mentioned all this setting up and the sunset. Have you seen the film The Secret Life of Walter Mitty?
Yeah.
So at the climax of the film, I guess, when he finally, Sean Penn's character, he's only in it for one scene, and he's taking a photo of a snow leopard, and he's there and he's zooming, and he's like, shut up. And then he eventually sees the snow leopard through the lens, and he just spends the whole time looking, and Ben Stiller's character's like, are you going to take the photo? And he goes, no, I'm just going to enjoy the moment. And I love that. It's just beautiful, and what I want to be is sort of like that.
Yeah, and this is possible to do. Am I frozen or not?
No, you're good.
Okay, because the little camera from my side is frozen. No, that's my point was just, of course everybody can record everything today, and it's absolutely okay to do so. But maybe it's in the moment to take a picture or to take a video, and then put the phone back into the pocket and enjoy this too. It's not just this whole thing the whole time. Who wants to watch this? Like you said, you see it once and then it's so boring, and you have to fast forward with your finger, and and then you always miss. Look how it is, and then okay, but I wasn't part of this anyway. But maybe this helps, to be able and to smell the wind outside, to see to feel the sun, and you see it, but you feel the sun when it's hot on your skin, and that I think is part of this too.
Yeah. It's very interesting. Actually, I got reminded earlier of talking about listening to albums. One of my favorite nights in Berlin when I was living there, we ended up listening to an album, but you're frozen a little bit. There you are. You're still good. Anyway, I don't know if I told you this, and I probably reserved it because you'll understand why I didn't want to tell my coworkers, but I was great way to start a story. Okay, quite a few Aussies there, and everyone was doing internships at different places, and 2 people were working at different galleries, and so we're doing gallery hopping between. They both had events on the nights, so I went to the first gallery. That was cool. Had a couple beers, hung out, talking to high society, you know, that sort of stuff, but dressed up like a street gremlin, you know, just casual, you know me, stylish as fuck.
Yeah.
That one coat I would always wear. And then we went to the second one. Now, the guy who was running the gallery was a total dick, and I had heard stories about him from the guy who was working there, and I had met some of the other people who worked at this gallery, and they all had a shared sentiment that this guy was an asshole. And I even heard him from like behind talking to his workers being like, why the fuck are you doing this and stuff like that? Just a total dick person and stuff like that. And when I eventually said hi and introduced myself, I was like, hi, I'm Joe. He goes, oh, thanks for coming. And I'm like, my favorite's this one over here. Do you have a favorite? And he walked off. And I was just like, oh, fuck this guy. As the gallery was closing, I said, I need to go to the bathroom. They're like, oh, just come to the one inside. And so I went in, and this bathroom was also like a laundry. It was like, because I think people live at the gallery. It was one of those resident ones. It was also the wine fridge. And so after going to the bathroom, grabbed the bottle and I stole it. And as I was leaving, I said goodbye to everyone. I was like, hi, thank you. It was really nice to have this gallery, and I look forward to the next one. No one suspected a thing. Did I tell you that or not?
No, you didn't.
Okay, good. I'm glad I didn't, because I think some of our other co-workers wouldn't have been very happy with me telling that story, or not impressed. And you don't tell your co-workers that you stole a bottle of wine.
No, you shouldn't do that. You shouldn't do that.
The wine was 12 euros, but we opened it later that night. It was 3 a.m. after going to Korean barbecue, jamming out at a rock bar, and then we listened to the new Lil Yachty album, because one guy was like, this was really good, and another guy was like, dude, Lil Yachty's trash. And so, oh no, it was champagne. Okay. And then as we were listening to the album, one of the guys was rolling a cigarette, and it was one of those bottles that it had a plastic cork instead of an actual one. And as I was opening it and we were listening to this album, I took off the wire little cap that they put on. And for some reason, I guess me walking around with it in my pocket shook it up, and and so I slowly saw this cork rising up, and it was too late before I could say anything. Pop, hugest pop ever. The guy who's rolling up the cigarette spills his tobacco everywhere. And then the third guy who was with us was laughing straight for like 20 minutes. And the album was just on in the background, but it's a funny experience I haven't actually listened to an album with 3 other guys since, or anything like that, but that was a really talking about albums really opened up that memory. Yeah. I promised Jan, whilst I was in Berlin, that was the only bottle of wine I stole.
Okay.
And I didn't steal anything from the office where we worked.
Where we worked, okay, no problem.
Yeah.
I'm missing some, $250.
I put that back in the envelope.
This was so crazy with this, what she did with, but anyways, it's okay.
I'm gonna have to bleep that.
That's why we are ways, but
okay. Did you ever go clubbing? Because Berlin's a clubbing scene, and I'm guessing people ask you this all the time.
Fuck yeah.
Did you enjoy it?
I had my own club when I was 18.
I remember you saying this. Do you want to tell the audience a little bit more details?
Maybe in a different episode about different topics, but back then we were not listening to tapes. This was definitely only vinyl, not even CD stuff when I started out going out. I mean, that's already 30 years ago. So when I started going out.
It's 5 minutes until we've hit 1 hour. Do you reckon you could tell some of the story within 5 minutes, or do you want to save it for another time?
Yeah, let's save it for another time.
Okay. I'll have to ask you straight away next week.
No, I mean, yeah, clubbing is a different life, and especially here in Berlin, um, you can get lost easily for 3 months. Coming here and looking for some stuff, and if you don't have a plan and if you don't have a straight work, it's very easy in Berlin to make a living and go clubbing. That's like because usually good clubbers they start at on a Thursday night and you end up on a Sunday night.
Some
And
go
then
till
you
Tuesday.
recover.
I don't know which one, but there was one that was on until
Yeah,
Tuesday, and I was like, "What the fuck?"
I know, but it's well, from my where I come from, when the wall broke down 30 years ago, we had those. As a West Berliner, we discovered the East Berlin part, then, and there was a time where Berliners went out on we called them Tuesday and Thursday parties because they were kind of more bar things, where you had illegal bars, and the venue was so small that too many people came, and it got out of like not a rave, but a party.
Yep.
And that's why you always were able to bring your own booze, because you didn't really have to use on some locations you didn't even have the opportunity to go inside and buy because there were so many people and only two people were working there, and there was no fun. And plus, we always had in Berlin, we have this Sechser, the six-pack thing.
Oh yeah,
With
yeah.
our beer bottles.
We have that
It's-
too, but it's in cans, not glass bottles.
Yeah.
So it's worse for the environment.
So yeah, but this was then it was Tuesday and Thursday nights, and then but Monday is not a good day to party. At least when I did this, and Wednesdays are not so cool. But usually it's like Thursday and until Sunday, break, partying Tuesday maybe, and then a little break on Wednesday, and then on Thursday again.
Rock on. I remember if there's any club that I can recommend in Berlin, if anyone ever travels there, it's called Same Heads. It's kind of hit or miss, but the interior is so weird and so unique, but kind of cool at the same time. And if you think Berlin, you'll remember this. There's all Bergheim, Kit Kat, Tresor. Everyone thinks of all of them, but Same Heads is the one to go. And when you leave a club at 7 a.m. and the sun is rising and you're on the S-Bahn, and instead of other people leaving the club with you or ending the night, some people are starting their day at 7 a.m. So you'll be sitting with your friends dead like zombies, and there'll be other people that are like, you guys smell. A German person's going to say, you smell.
Yeah, definitely. A German person say, you smell like alcohol, guys. Was a great night, I guess. And then everybody was,
Sometimes I come into work and be like, were you at the club?
I remember, I remember this. We had after my high school diploma, I had to do community service, and I had to wake up at 5ish to start at the mental hospital at 6 a.m. in the morning. And when I was driving there by buses, I know people are just coming from straight. It was so much fun. It's a different world. It's really a different universe.
Were you doing community service out of some government policy, or were you in trouble with the law?
No, we had to do this.
Okay.
I have never troubled with the law. No,
Berlin's a place where you can pay off the cops.
No, we had to do this by law.
Okay, interesting.
When I was younger, I had to do 15 months, I think, was community service.
Whoa. And paid or anything like that, or?
Yeah, paid.
Okay.
Paid a little bit, and back then it was absolutely fine. Most people used to live still at home, at their parents, and it was easy money, but it wasn't. Yeah.
It's interesting with those mandatory things and how it changes a society. Like mandatory service is in places like Israel and South Korea, but they don't really have obesity problems with like young people or anything like that. and that type of mindset, influences a society quite nicely. But Australia doesn't have anything mandatory
Never
like
had
that.
this?
No,
How many Australians are there?
25 million,
Okay.
and
Roughly.
half of that is in Melbourne, Sydney, and Brisbane.
Okay.
Yeah, you basically can just graduate high school and fuck off if you really wanted to. There's a lot of lazy people in Australia.
Okay.
I like
So
the
I can
German
join.
mindset and the way they worked. In fact, I like the
Yeah.
European way of doing things just generally.
Yeah, let's see. We have so many tasks here over here in Europe to grow better and be better as societies. Let's see what America is doing, and hopefully what China is doing with over you guys there with Taiwan and everything. It's
It's funny that
interesting
you,
time.
you mentioned this because I saw a trailer this morning for a film, and the two stars are John Cena and Jackie Chan. And John Cena, I'm not sure if you know who he is, but he was in the WWE, and he speaks fluent Mandarin. And so anytime they would do promos, he's now turned into an actor, and anytime they needed promotional material, they would ship him off to mainland China, do a shit ton of press over there, and he speaks it and all that sort of stuff. And
Yeah.
they've just made this film with Jackie Chan and John Cena to make money in China. It's like, that's it.
Yeah.
Nothing wrong with that.
Absolutely.
Hollywood's a business.
Yeah, that's a business case for sure.
We've deviated quite far from our original conversation, hey?
Absolutely. That's why I keep showing this again. That's a mixtape. And
When I come to
it's cool.
Berlin soon and we have dinner or whatever, we'll put on a mixtape.
Absolutely.
That's a great
I
idea,
know
actually.
where they are, where my other tapes are, and I still have a mobile cassette recorder.
Ooh,
So
very
we can
cool.
listen.
I'll get
All
into
right.
that. Let's wrap it up
I
there.
gotta go too.
Thanks, everyone. We shall see you next week. And also, when I'm in Berlin, we're going to do one in person, and I don't know when it's going to be uploaded. It's going to get tricky when I go on holiday. I need this holiday because uni was hard and exhausting. So, yep. See you next week, though. Bye, everyone.
See you next week. Bye bye. Ciao.